All right, now we're starting. All right, so Scott Sauls again. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on this, and but it's good stuff. So it's not like it's not bad. It's just that's where we're at. So this week the title is "When a Father Wound Defines You." I have said it before, and I will say it again. I am comforted deeply so by the fact that God put so many misfits and insecure people in the Bible, and then accomplished beautiful things through their lives. The ancient Jewish patriarch Jacob is one of these people. Jacob was haunted by insecurity and self-doubt, which makes perfect sense. As the second born of Isaac, from early childhood, Jacob lived with the pain of knowing that he was his father's second favorite son. Isaac loved his first son and Jacob's twin brother Esau the best. Years of doting and favoring Esau, his macho hunter-gatherer son, wounded Jacob, a mama's boy, in comparison to his brother, very deeply. Another significant detail about Jacob's childhood is that his father named him Jacob, a name that in Hebrew means liar. Can you imagine growing up with a name like this? Every time someone says your name, it reminds you that ever since your birth, your own father pronounced a curse over you instead of a blessing, and that from your earliest days, he has looked upon you with contempt instead of favor. Your own father has decided that as far as he was concerned, you are a nobody instead of a somebody. Jacob resorted to desperate measures in an attempt to reverse the negative verdict spoken over him by Isaac. When he and his brother Esau were adult men and Isaac had lost his eyesight and was dying, Jacob went in to his father, posing as Esau. "Father, it's me, Esau," Jacob said. "Give me my blessing." Then, believing that the son of his scorn was instead the son of his love, Isaac spoke the blessing, unaware and under false pretense over Jacob instead of Esau. So, any thoughts to that point?
I think one thing it points out is that we never know someone's story. You know, like Jacob gets a lot of shade. Most people, when they teach the story of Jacob and Esau, Jacob is the bad guy. Jacob did the bad thing. Esau did nothing wrong. Poor Esau. And, you know, I've always, being the product of a dysfunctional family, I've always read that with that grain of, but Mama kind of put him up to being deceptive, first of all. Second of all, Dad clearly had a favorite, which is never healthy.
Right.
And I could see that. And it makes me then look at it differently. And I hope other people, and I try to bring that out. There's so many stories in the Bible, so many stories in life where people are viewed this way because that's what they see, but you never know what got them there.
So, I mean, we got two kids. Everybody here has multiple children, correct?
Yeah, we have 2 times 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, at least 2. I guess my point was more than one. So, like, being conscious of not making a difference in them, you know, I know it's difficult. They are all different. So loving them differently in different ways, no less or no more, but differently. So we all would face that a little bit, right?
The big question is, what's the matter with the father? Was it a difficult birth? Was it the same wife's child? Was it, why would a person not want the second son? And you think it would be a daughter that they would eschew, but not, I mean, and the sons is what they wanted?
Don't you think probably Jacob or Esau and Isaac just had more in common? Like as they grew up, you know, Jacob played video games.
You wouldn't know that when you named
you know,
him.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I think the significance of the story is that, first of all, she was pregnant with twins and nobody knew that till they came out, because back then you didn't have ultrasounds and you listened to heartbeats.
Of course.
So there was the biggest lie right there. He was more of a surprise than a lie. He came out surprise. Second of all, second sons were not as highly regarded as firstborn sons. So there's that. And I think that the whole story is he held on to the heel of Isaac as he came out, and there was some significance to that. And Jewish people, they're highly symbolic and highly. So I think that's where all that came from. But I think in real life there is a lot more to who you have in common with.
Yeah. Well, and I think Lindsay and I started watching this show. I don't know. We don't watch a lot of TV, but for whatever reason, there was a story about the royal family on, and like,
is it The Crown?
Might have been, and it was like,
right in the
we
middle
didn't watch
of
all of it. We watched one episode of it, and I was like, so just by what order you were born in, you get a chance to be king or you don't,
Yes.
or whatever. I mean, it's like, so I'm always
And you're treated
interested by how that all works and like why it works or does it work. And,
And as soon as your older brother has a child, then you know that
you're out. Your
You're out.
chances are
Yeah.
like you're like. I felt like that at work before. I'm like, I keep losing
That
spots
didn't
here.
work. That didn't work in the case of the king before Queen Elizabeth because dude got a girlfriend and they wouldn't let him keep her, so he had to abdicate being the king. And his brother, who never planned nor was trained to be the king, suddenly is the king.
And like you would think these offshore betting sites would put money on like what's the odds of Henry being king or something like it's 10 million to 1. I want to put a
We
bug
don't know
on
that
it,
they
whatever.
don't.
But I'm sure they do.
We don't know that
Yeah,
they
like what?
do.
Yeah, I'm sure they put that. I'm sure they do.
Like I'm sure there's
So-
a bet right now. Is Charles ever going to make? Well, now he can't because he married Camilla. But before that, is he going to ever make it to the throne, or is it going to be one of his kids?
So he can't be the king
no,
ever.
no.
So when
That's what I
Elizabeth,
thought too. I thought it was.
so we're about to go down a rabbit hole here, okay? Let's just be careful. Let's just like no, I started it. So like when she dies, when the queen dies, Charles
Harry
becomes
Hudson.
king. No,
No.
William.
William.
William,
Oh.
and he's already being groomed to be the king.
We're not much different because we were at that point after the 2000 election. We're almost like Strom Thurmond was about to be president, and he was at Fort Sumter when it happened. I mean, he was 130 years old, in 2000 and not 2000.
But still had a kid under 15.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, sorry. Didn't mean to take us down that rat hole, but it was sort of relevant.
I was gonna mention something that strikes a personal chord with me because my dad, he grew up with 4 brothers. And so when my mom got pregnant, he says, well, our family doesn't have girls. So now he's blessed with 3 daughters, 4 granddaughters, and 1 grandson. Well,
Who is the prince?
yes, exactly. He said when my mom and him got divorced, he always looked for wives that had sons, so he could replace us with them.
Gosh.
And then we always fell second
Yeah. Yeah.
because he didn't want us; he wanted boys
Uh-huh.
because he didn't know how to interact with girls.
I was thinking she was going down the thing that she was the least of the twins. She was the last one born.
I got you. Yeah, she was a whole other Katie's Hill. When she
Yeah,
came
yeah.
down.
You're the liar.
I'm still your birthright. So my dad was like big on wanting the family name to go on or whatever. So my sister wasn't gonna happen to my sister. Well, then I wasn't born for 14 years later. I was surprised. So then you got a boy. Well, you get the family names going on through me. Well, then he was tore up about that. Well, then Lindsay and I went through this period of time where we didn't know if we were going to be able to have children. So we were like, but I wasn't concerned about the family name going on. I was more concerned about her well-being in that. And then if we had adopted a child, I would not have went specifically looking for a son just to carry that name on. I don't think. That wasn't that important to me.
Well, and nowadays names can carry on to girls because some girls keep their names.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And all that. So it's not like it was at that
Hey,
time or even
absolutely. Yeah.
30 years ago.
Right. Yeah. 40. So, yeah.
Well, I was being kind.
She was trying not to look at your hair.
That's it. That's right. That's right. It
I
gives it
can't
away.
go by that. I turned that color at 18.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I once heard Tim Keller say that Jacob's deceit was the first recorded case of identity theft. But what was Jacob's motivation? What was Jacob's motivation? Why, under false pretense and knowing that it would not be long before both Isaac and Esau would find him out, did Jacob deceive anyway?
His mother's influence?
His mother's
Trying to make
influence was
Mama
big
happy?
in that.
So 10 out of 10 therapists would say that it was because Jacob, like every other child in the world, craved a paternal blessing. More than anything, he longed to hear the words of affirmation spoken over him by his father. And if the blessing can only be gained under false pretenses, a child will resort to any measure to satisfy this primal craving. Simply put, Jacob wanted more than anything to hear from his father's lips. I see you. You matter. I love you. I like you. You matter to me.
That's how you get those kids that go, look at me, look what I'm doing.
Yep.
Look what I'm doing.
Yep.
Look at me.
My own children have sought similar blessings from me. When our youngest daughter, Ellie, was 6 years old, she asked me to sit and watch her while she read a book silently. So I sat there and I sat there in the quiet for about 30 minutes watching her read. And then I gave her what she was looking for. Way to go, Ellie. I'm so proud of you. You read so well. I really enjoyed watching you read. And I did. What is this? What is it in the heart of a child that makes her or him long to be watched and to be seen, even while doing something so mundane, something so unspectacular as reading a book to herself quietly? It's the same thing that resides in the heart of a grown-up. In the heart of every adult and child resides the longing to be watched and then to be praised, to be known and then to be loved, to be seen and exposed and then to be rejected and then not to be rejected. It's a longing to be approved and favored. It's a longing to be somebody in the eyes of a greater somebody. It's a longing to be secure. Any thoughts at that point?
I think that's just, it's the truth. I still think his mom had a lot to do with it. I mean, he may have had that desire, but she definitely, to me, she didn't do what mothers should do, which was find a way for him to get that blessing without telling him, let's go manipulate your father alive. But, you know, that's a whole subset of the story, but still.
Well, we got to this point now where it's like you're splitting that blessing. It's not like it's
Yeah, it's
one or
not,
the
it's
other,
not what it
whatever,
was. I mean, he didn't really get the blessing.
Yeah.
He got someone else's blessing, which might have felt good for a split second, but that, when you think about it long enough, you realize that
It's totally fake. It's
I
not
think,
real.
I think though, I mean, ultimately, coming back to that point of we're all craving that attention, that affirmation. We're
I
all
think it's
craving
more
that. certain point.
affirmation than attention.
It ultimately, affirmation is the final part of it, no
Or,
doubt.
you
Yeah.
want people to notice how hard you're working, or what all you're doing, or how far you're going, or what you don't want them to ignore you, or worse yet, tell you you're not doing a good job if you're trying really hard.
But yeah, I've also been somebody who was always, when someone like at work, for instance, would come and say, you're doing such a great job, I try to deflect that
Oh, yeah.
to somebody else.
Yeah.
Deflect that to, like for the kind of work I do, I don't do anything to make the company any money, but the people that are working in the field doing the labor work are making the money for the company. Yeah, maybe I can help facilitate that. But as far as me actually doing that, I don't do it,
See, I used to deflect, and I've learned that I'm still an integral part of the system.
Uh-huh.
And when I got my performance appraisal last week, and my boss said you're doing a fantastic job, I was like, thank you,
Yeah.
because I'm more a behind the scenes person, and people don't see it up front, and so I don't hear that as often.
Uh-huh.
So it's really nice when I do get
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think some people are not comfortable with praise because in our society, we give false praise a lot.
Mhm.
Like we
Uh-huh.
give trophies to everybody who played the game.
Yeah.
We do things that kind of lead to this false praise. And so then, and kids know when you're praising them falsely.
Yeah, for sure.
And Jill's so funny story. This is her first year at Wilson County. Now it's her 10th year to teach, but it's her first year summer. And she got nominated for Teacher of the Year. And the other two teachers that were nominated had been there many years, and they had been nominated many times, but had not won yet. So part of her definitely didn't want to win because of that. But the other part of her was, I don't want people looking at me because they don't want to see how I get when I'm praised. Because she does. She gets super awkward and weird. It's like embarrassing.
Yeah.
And she's like, please. She's like, so we're all praying that she doesn't win, and she didn't. And we didn't think she had a good shot. But she said, you know what? To be nominated, felt really great.
Yeah.
And that was enough for her.
Yeah. We've had the kind of work I do, we've had opportunities to win these smooth paving awards. And I'm like, I take pride in that because the crew gets the put on the pedestal, which is great. That's what I want. But I know that I played a role in that. And like I can stand to the side.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not on the stage, but I know that I had a part in that. So that's self, I don't know what the deal is, but
Where
So-
I work, I'm the person that gives the awards.
Yeah.
I don't receive the
Yeah.
awards. I'm the person that, and there is so much joy
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
in the giving of that.
Yes.
The people that, when it's genuine,
Yes.
when it's genuine, when it's real, that is just makes my entire week.
Yeah,
when
I was talking to the
get
owner of the
something.
company last week that I work for about some guys we need to give raises to and this and that. And he said, you go be the hero. He said, you get to go be the hero. He said, I don't want a part of that. He said, you know who's doing what, you go do it. He said, because then you build that respect with them. And I'm like, that's perfect.
That's
I mean,
the fun work.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
the fun work.
Excellent. That's excellent. So
But on the other side, what I was going to say is that sometimes there is that craving, not for the awards that I'm giving, but just in general, like, hey, good job.
Pat on the back.
Every
Yep.
now and then.
Yeah,
Be
that's
nice.
right.
So what did the father do to make his wife so vindictive? Did he have other wives?
I don't think he did.
Probably.
I mean, no, I don't. I mean, it would be very likely that he did, but they didn't. I
Yeah.
would say that it was the typical story of Jacob was hers, Esau was his,
Yeah.
and she was
Absolutely.
trying to balance out.
They
Absolutely.
certainly weren't on the same page. It certainly wasn't good parenting.
Because that doesn't.
No, that wasn't great parenting for sure.
But that was, I mean, to be that vindictive and that trickery, and they were faithful, I mean, they were Jewish people. And they
Well, no.
The devil made them do it.
No, I mean,
were,
you have to understand, this was very early
Pre-
on in our faith
pre,
history.
okay.
They weren't going to the synagogue and learning anything
Yeah.
at this point.
Well,
So-
but that situation happens today still, the whole
Yeah.
favoritism
Absolutely.
thing.
Yes.
And I
Or-
have seen it so
Yeah.
many times in multiple families where there is a clear
Mhm.
favorite, clear.
Yeah.
And it's terrible when you're on the other end of that.
And
Mhm.
sometimes it's
As
divide,
adults.
sometimes it's divide and conquer. When we got the boys, they were 2 and 3 and they were feral, and it took a village. And most of the time, Joe took Dylan to do things and I took Dakota to do things. It wasn't that I liked Dakota better or he liked Dylan better. It was the type of things Dylan wanted to do: hunt, fish, shoot a gun, throw a ball. You know, and Dakota wanted to do brain things, and I could do, not that Joe didn't have a brain, for Joe to sit around and.
I know better, Joe. I
For
know.
Joe to sit around and do computer work was not his gig, but I could do that with Dakota. And so it grew into this even bigger divide that then suddenly when Dylan's like 13, 14, he was asking me to go do things that I was like,
Yep.
But I went, you know, I don't want to go watch you shoot a gun, I hate guns, but we went and, you know, I would go because that's what Dylan wanted. But
And
Joe-
recognizing that's important. When we don't
Well,
recognize that's the problem.
it took a
Recognizing and
while
doing.
for me to like recognize
is
it, yeah,
important.
it did,
It's
because
gotta take a conscious effort, I think.
that's exactly what it was. And it was a conscious, I'm gonna go do this even though I hate it thing.
But right now, Ella's like her horses are like just, I mean, like she's just eat up with it. You know, like we're gonna end up going on the circuit, selling our house, buying a horse trailer to sleep in, and just going on the circuit. I don't know what he's gonna do. He hates it. You know, he don't want nothing to do. I was like, "Why? Do you want us to buy 3 more horses and we all 4 just go ride horses?" He said, "No, I don't." But like he said that last week about snow skiing. You want to go snow skiing? No. Titus and Natalie are going. Okay, and he went. And he loved it. So it's like, you know, you're just like it's a struggle. It's like maybe next time it's something like at night. Ella's like, "Will you go upstairs and lay down with me in my new bed and so I can go to sleep?" Yes. She don't ask Lindsay for that, but Lindsay's with Wyatt on the couch. So it's just everybody's dealing with it. Yeah. So back to the awards thing. I thought of something that was you mentioned when you started talking about awards and stuff like that. But like we had been open with the clinic for like 1 year, and not this isn't a knock on the chamber. I'm not saying that, but the chamber voted Lindsay Businesswoman of the Year. Like we've been open for a year. Not that to say she didn't appreciate it, she did appreciate it, but like that would have meant more 20 years down the road or something, you know. But like, they didn't have a lot of women business leaders, so it was like we're out of people to nominate, so we're going to give it to Lindsay. Well, then they gave her the plaque and it said instead of DVM, Lindsay Dixon DVM, it said Lindsay Dixon DMV. Something totally different.
So, note to self, get it right.
Yeah. Proof it a bunch of times. You know? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I thought about when we're talking about trying to divert the attention, when you're a manager, it's a sign of a good manager that
Yeah.
says the team is what's doing this
Agreed.
work. They're the ones doing this work, not me. And showing that. But if I've always run it with the managers that I always felt like they needed to remind
Yeah.
you that they're doing great. That's the ones that couldn't get along.
Well, that's what with LoJack, we had the guy that was with us all the time, who was one of the owner's sons, and he was never going to take any credit for anything. He was always deflected, and everybody loved it. He was just the best manager, cared about everybody, you know. And then went over, Vulcan buys us out, this big corporate monstrosity, and I knew a bunch of guys who had started out as like salesmen or maybe even in quality control or something. Great guys. But the minute they started climbing that ladder, it changed. It changed them. And I'm like, if that's what it's going to do to me, I don't want it. I don't want
And
anything to
watch
do
it
with it.
happen.
You know, like why couldn't I be the CEO of the company and still be giving credit to the guy who's the
Right.
newest guy on the paving crew? Why couldn't I do that? You know, And I think you can. I think that's a decision you make, you know. I think they get so concerned that, hey, I've got to this point. I really haven't done anything to get here. It just so happens to be that I'm the person they've promoted. And now I got to build myself up so I don't lose that. I got to reinforce this rung on the ladder that I'm standing on before I step to the next one, knock somebody off of it and step to the next one and start reinforcing it under myself. When in truth, the whole ladder is holding you up, not just that one rung, you know, it's taking every bit of us. So, all right. So the comedian and talk show host, Ellen DeGeneres, I never have known how to say her name. Ellen.
You just said it right.
The comedian and talk show host, Ellen, talks about a fictitious approval patch that she wears under her sleeve every day. The approval patch, she says, works just like a nicotine patch. Throughout the day, it releases small doses of approval, and she can't rip it off of her arm until the craving stops. But for Ellen, Jacob, and the rest of us, the craving never stops. We are made in the image of God, the purpose of whose existence is to be glorified and adored and given honor and praise. Why then would we ever think it odd to desire praise ourselves, being made in his image? There's a Groucho Marx skit that I love because I relate to it so much. In the skit, Groucho is having a conversation with a friend in which he goes on and on and on and on about himself. In the course of going on and on about himself, he slips into a brief moment of self-awareness and apologizes to his friend for talking so much about himself. He politely says to his friend, "Well, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?"
Now that's cute.
Aren't we all wearing the approval patch? This is why so many of us pursue positions of leadership and influence. It is at least in part because we crave those daily, constant, small, but significant doses of approval seeping into our systems. Every minute of the hour, every hour of the day, every day of the week, every week of the month, and every month of the year. And we can't rip it off until the craving stops. This is why we get nervous when someone emails us and the subject line reads, "Can we talk?"
No.
This is why even on the heels of a great year, something inside us dreads an upcoming review of our work. This is why we feel threatened by talented up-and-comers in our industries and organizations, and why we lay awake at night wrestling with our inner Jacob and wrestling with God. We think to ourselves, as Madonna once expressed about her own fears about becoming mediocre, "My struggle has never ended, and it probably never will." As we read through the Jacob account, we see in Jacob a broken man, and yet God has chosen him to be the father and leader of the 12 tribes of Israel. The kingly figurehead, 12 sons whose tribes would eventually establish an entire nation. With this as his last purpose, it is critical that the wounded Jacob undergo healing. For this to happen, and for Jacob to be able to release the wounds of the years of cursing and neglect from his father, he has to go through a dark night of the soul. He has to wrestle with the presence of God, the same God who put him in a family with a dad who named him liar. We are told in Genesis 32 that Jacob was alone all night wrestling with God until daybreak. Now, if you know anything about wrestling, you know that even 3 minutes on the mat with an opponent is exhausting. But Jacob wrestles with God all the way to daybreak, the whole night long. Then God says to him, "Let me go." The exhausted, resilient Jacob then replies, "I won't let you go until you bless me. I won't let you go until you bless me. Until God blesses me. Until the supreme somebody affirms that I, Jacob, am going to be treated as a loved one instead of a liar, as a favored son instead of a contemptible throwaway, as a somebody instead of a nobody." And it was there on the ground, wrestling with God from evening until daybreak, that Jacob finally found what he was looking for. There on the ground, he heard the voice of a father who had loved him from before he was born, who had declared that he, Jacob, the younger, would rule over his older brother Esau as the favored son. Jacob heard a father who was not blind, but who could see him clearly all the way down to his core, conveying to him something similar to the words that would one day be uttered to an even greater son. "You are my beloved son, with you I am well pleased." Matthew 3:17. Approval patch no longer necessary. Ceaseless striving for approval no longer required. No more fear of mediocrity or your legacy being forgotten. Because now, Jacob, I am giving you a new name. From now on, you will be named Israel, which means he wrestles with God. When you wrestle with God and prevail with a blessing, It has a way of breaking the spell of insecurity and fear. It has a way of making you less needy of approval and applause, and therefore more poised to love and to serve, which is precisely what the people of Jesus were made to do. Ephesians 2, 8 through 10 to you, my friends. What is Ephesians 2, 8 through 10?
That's what I was looking at.
Now we gotta know that. I should have had that beforehand. That would, a good teacher would have known better than that.
We'll give you a hall pass this time.
That's it.
For
You got-
by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not of your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them.
So we've all got that approval patch already.
Love that. Stamp of approval.
Yep. Any other thoughts from anybody? Anything else for the good of the group? Barbara? Anything?
Yes. Well, we in this approval thing, the son and father, our water heater went out and flooded the whole area. And our son has not ever put in a water heater or cared about a water heater. Tommy was forced to work with a plumber growing up. So this weekend he learned to do that. And he got a lot of approval for it. And that was a good thing.
That was really good.
Yeah. So this was a rather meaningful story for me today. Thank you.
That's really good. It's really good.
That's cute.
So I told you that my daddy was really interested in the family name going on, and he never got to meet Wyatt. And I just think about how much approval he would be given to Wyatt, because how much he would love the fact that his family name was going on. But Wyatt is so much like my daddy. He is so much nature like my daddy, and it would be like that would be the best thing for him. And like he's getting to see that. I'm not. I just wish that I could witness that all at once. Anyhow,
In my family, there's 6 of us children, 3 boys, 3 girls. Well, I'm the only one that had a son. He was the last one. So my dad's name is carried on through the lake.
Yeah.
From my dad's side, he's got a twin brother, and his son's all over on his son. But it's one of those things that you didn't know if it was ever going to happen.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's the thing that men care about. That's nothing that I've never cared
Never
about.
crossed your mind. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it did when we had Tinley first. I was reminded by the other side of the family that we didn't have a boy. I was like, and what's the problem
Yeah.
with that?
You are right.
Correct. I'm glad you did that.
Thank you for that
Glad
notation.
you recognize that she's a girl. That's it. That's it.
So apparently that is a thing. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was
Yeah.
a thing until.
Well, I think it was
started
more of a
having
thing. I do think it was more of a thing, like in a previous generation than it is
Yes.
now. Maybe I don't know. So.
Yes. Well, we've got and I know we're getting ready to wrap up. I've got a situation at work that I have been dealing with for 2 years. And if you know how banking is structured, much like other industries, it's title oriented. So that's the culture, is title driven. And that's the negotiation tool we use for lots of things.
Uh-huh.
And so I've been internally going through this whole titling situation and back and forth, and I don't have the title that I think I deserve, or does that make sense?
Yeah,
And so
it does.
I have been talking with different people in the organization and trying, and then talking with the Lord too, trying to decide, is it this important for me to leave a company over a stupid title? Or is it, and I'm not going to do that, by the way, but my mind has gone there
Yeah.
because I'm mad about there's lots of things that play into it. We've talked about sexism, we've talked about discrimination, we've talked about, but really, why is it that important? Why do I have to be too concerned about those things? And so God and I've been talking about that. And this lesson is just a reminder of why none of that matters. But then on the other side, I think God also charges us with taking care of our family. And so I don't want to be a doormat either.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have to take care of our family. And so I go back and forth.
Well,
Well,
I think
that's
I
what it
dealt
is.
with that same thing, trying to make a decision about leaving Vulcan and going to where I'm at now. It was like, I'm not being appreciated for what I have the ability to do.
Yep.
There were these 5 roles that I felt like when I started in 2003 that I had a potential to move into. They eliminated, and it got down to where there was only 2 of those left. Well, then I was going to get passed up by somebody over seniority, which I think is the dumbest measuring tool that's ever existed.
Right.
And so anyway, I was like, I'm not gonna be appreciated here. I'm gonna leave. And I would like to tell you that I prayed a lot about it, and God gave me this direction about what I should do, and He didn't. I didn't ask Him, and He didn't tell me. And I just went off feel, and it felt like I was making the right move, and that's been affirmed since I went there. And I've been able to make a difference in other people's lives. I didn't like the me that worked for Vulcan. I also didn't feel like I could make a difference in anyone's life there. And I felt like we were going more and more toward where the culture was going. This guy is all about what God's blessed him with, and he is all about blessing somebody else with it. And I'm like, this is the perfect place for me at this season.
Right.
In a year, I might be somewhere else, but right now, it's where I'm supposed to be, I feel like.
Well, and that's the difference. I had like a little come to Jesus meeting with myself just Friday, had a great conversation with somebody about it. And the difference is I do feel like I'm able to make a difference in 550 people's lives. Truly, that's how many people I touch every day. And so what a great opportunity and I need to just back up and remember that, who cares about titles? I'm getting to help lots and lots of people.
Yep.
So continue on. This internal conversation will continue on. And it has, but this Sunday school lesson has been great. I'm sending it to a couple EVPs as a reminder.
Yeah, there you go.
Pay
There you
attention
go.
to these
There you
things.
go.
What did Tony Campola say? Title for testimonies.
I don't know what that means.
Titles or testimonies.
Yeah.
Which
one do you want?
Which one do you want? Right.
Oh, that's a good.
Right,
point.
that's really good.
point.
It's really good. Tony Campola has a lot of good ones.
Trying not to get caught up in that side of
Mhm.
things. Who cares about those things as long as you can
Yeah.
get real work done.
David's a fanboy of Tony Campola. But we might go to a Tony Campola book next. I'm trying to think about who changed the price tags, and maybe we'll do that next.
Ain't no wrong.
I know it. You can't. It's really good stuff. Hey, we want to pray and leave. Is that good with y'all? David, will you pray for us?
All right. Holy Father, we're grateful you've given us time together to learn and relearn the lesson. And Father, we just pray you'll be with us to be focused on our families and taking care of our families and making sure that we are valuing all of our kids and all of our inner family like we should. And we pray that you'll be with us and apply the new lessons we've learned from this whole story. God is done in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Barbara, good luck with your new hot water heater.
Well, it's great.
Aw.
You just have to be without hot water to know the meaning.
That's good. That's
Thank
good.
you very much.
Have a great day.
You too.
I was like,
See ya.
what?
Yeah.
Sky.